Hey guys, it's August the 4th, 2024, and today I've got my wife here with me again. Today I want to talk about chasing the dragon, and what I mean by chasing the dragon is how, and I'm just going to use myself for example, and I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of people that can relate to what I'm going to be talking about today, but how I used to chase the dragon as far as, I was always trying to get to that certain point. I would, start drinking and, we're always looking for that sweet spot. And, I've talked about this on here before, but, I would start drinking, I'd get to that point where I would start to plateau. I'd start to get that euphoria, start to get really happy. I'd start joking around. I was having a good time. I'd be in this great mood, and that's when, people actually enjoyed to be around me, when I was at that spot, because I would have a really good time. I was playing around with everybody, really talkative, all that kind of stuff, and like I said, I'd be in a great euphoric mood during that period of time. But once again, I would be chasing that dragon, so I'd get to that plateau moment, and then I'd always have to tip over the edge and take it way too far. So and one of the reasons I'm talking about this today with my wife here is because this used to happen to me all the time. I would get to that point to where let's say that we were hanging out, and it was, I'm gonna use for example, like on a night when we had like a date night or something. We would have, like, let's say we had a Friday night and my kids were at my in-laws' house for the night, and the two of us would have a night to go out for dinner, which we didn't do a lot of, but whenever we would often go out to eat, and then I would start having a couple drinks when we would go out, and we would start, my wife would have a drink or two, we'd start having great conversation, we'd start laughing and joking around and all that kind of stuff. And then, and I would hang out at that sweet spot for not very long. I would get there and it would be an hour maybe, if that long.
If that, yeah.
And then next thing,
there'd be a light switch.
Yeah, and then just like a light switch went off, I would take that couple of shots that would send me right off the deep end. And then I would turn, from being this nice, fun, laughing person to
mad about something,
mad about whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it, the thing is that anything could set me off at that point. And it could be anything. I mean, we could be in the middle of a conversation about, let's say dinner the night before, and then I would just go off about whatever.
Like I would say something like wrong.
Yeah, like, let's say that I made spaghetti for dinner the night before, and we were just having a conversation about it, and let's say my wife was like, man, my stomach's been kind of messed up today.
Yeah, I think the spaghetti.
It might have been from that spaghetti, and I would just go off the deep end. What do you mean it was my spaghetti?
So you're mad at me now?
Yeah.
And it would just be this huge negative. You tipped over the hill, and now we're going down.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's all bad from there.
Yeah. And the point of why I'm talking about this today is because I think that often what was happening was I wasn't necessarily angry at my wife. I was angry at myself. And after reflecting on this, because we've talked about this
several times.
Yeah. And we've talked about it even when I was a drinker. But since I've stopped drinking, this has been a topic of conversation for us multiple times since I've gotten sober. Because we just reflecting back in the past about, why I used to get so angry, the difference in my mood. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, I don't want anybody to think that I'm, Mr. Perfect over here and I don't get upset about things, because I do. I still get...
This is a different type of upset, though.
It is a different type of upset.
It's a whole different thing, not just like, oh, I'm irritated with you, or we're not speaking to each other for an hour because we're just going to go our separate ways for a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is more like the whole night's ruined, everybody's day, anybody in the path, their day is going to be ruined.
Yeah.
It's a whole outpour of frustration.
Where, back in the day when I would drink, one thing could set me off and it would ruin the whole entire night. Yeah. And because I wouldn't stop. I would just keep carrying on and on and on about whatever it was. And then I would just go right off the deep end and go straight into this, like, dark place, and there was just no dragging me out of it. Once I was there, I was there. And now if I get upset about something, majority of the time I leave.
Well, you just walk away.
I do.
Like, oh, we'll just come back to it later.
Yeah, I mean, majority of the time, if we get into a little altercation with each other, I walk outside, or I'll get in my car and I'll leave for a little bit, just because I just want things to diffuse. There's no point, especially when both parties are upset about something and both of our opinions are different, and things start to get a little bit heated. Majority of the time, either, like I said, I'll come outside, sit outside for a half an hour until I'm cooled off. I know she's cooled off, or I'll get in my car and just drive around for a little bit and then come back home after things have calmed down, because I just don't see any sense in carrying on about it when we're both upset.
But when you were drinking, you were like poke, poke. Like, I would try to walk away from you and be like, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and you would just follow me around.
I would follow her around the
whoever
house.
you were having an altercation, you would not let it go. You were and it was basically, like you try to get to that good point. You got to that good point, but by the time you got to that good point, you had already drank more. I mean, we know it takes a minute.
Yeah.
And then you start going over the edge to the bad point. I guess then you're trying to find the good point again, but the good point's gone.
Oh yeah.
You just keep drinking, trying to find that sweet spot again.
Well, I think, like I was saying, that we've reflected on this a bunch of times and talked about this topic, and the reason that I used to get so angry back when I was a drinker. And I think, and the reason I'm talking about this today is because, for any of you guys out there that have a spouse that might be suffering with AUD, or a loved one that has AUD, I'm really making this video for the ones of you out there who have a loved one who is dealing with this. And if you're dealing with the outbursts of anger and stuff like that from them, the reason I'm talking about this today is because I just want you to understand that it's not your fault that they're getting angry. And no matter, and I'm not going to say for all cases, because there might be there might be an instance where you did something to make them upset and they were validated for it.
What?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
if your spouse, you came home and, picked up their phone and there's a text message from, Joe Schmo on their text message and on their phone, and you're like, what is this right here? And it's saying something on there that they shouldn't be talking about being married. That's a whole nother situation. What I'm talking about today is that, you come home, let's say, you have a husband that's a drinker, and, both you guys go to work. Let's say you come home later than your husband did. Your husband got home first, or he either stopped by the bar on the way home from work, and, he gets home, and then you get home, and he's in a good mood when you get home from work, but you can tell that he's been drinking. And then 30 minutes, an hour into him continuing to drink, or your wife continuing to drink, next thing you know, their attitude all of a sudden turns sour, and that happy-go-lucky person that you were just talking to 30 minutes before now all of a sudden has turned into an angry person who's screaming and yelling.
And you're going, what did I do?
Exactly.
Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, everything was fine 5 minutes ago, so what did I do? Like, you literally look at yourself and go, what did I do wrong? Did I make it mad? Did I say something? Or I remember I used to plan, because I wouldn't know where you were in your drinking, so I would walk on eggshells, or try not to say something that would upset you. But at the end of the day, I didn't have to say anything.
No.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
Yes, because you weren't in your right state of mind.
No, I wasn't.
I could have been like, isn't the sky so pretty today? And you'd be like, well, what is that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing I could do to make it go one way or the other.
No, there wasn't. And that's the point of why I'm talking about this today, is that for myself, and I can't say this is for everyone, because I don't know everybody out there personally, and everybody's situation is different, but I would say for a lot of the time, and for myself a majority of the time, I think a lot of time for a lot of people, I think that because we're chasing that dragon and we get to that sweet spot and we want to hang out there, but we always end up taking it too far, or myself always ended up taking it too far, and then I would start getting really intoxicated. I would get angry at myself because I'm seeing double. and that's not what I wanted to do, and there was always this, I just wanted to have a good night, especially if it was just my wife and I spending time together and it was our date night or something like that, because we used to get in arguments all the time when it was just the two of us, because I always would start drinking and take it too far.
And then I probably would just say what I felt like I wanted to say, because there wasn't anybody there
Exactly.
No kids were there, so
Yeah.
I was honest and expressed my opinion.
There were no kids there. There was nothing there for us to hold back, and we'd go to a restaurant or something, and everything would be honky-dory for a little bit. But then, I'd take a couple extra shots, and the next thing you know, it was like my eyes glassed over, and I became a whole different person. And I've talked about this, that people used to say I get the crazy eyes all the time. Do you know what
Yeah,
like it was like I was like staring off in outer space.
Yeah, you couldn't even look at the person directly in the face. You would look somewhere off while you were talking right at them.
Yeah. So I'd be like, if you were the person right now that I was speaking to, I'd be looking over here.
Yes.
But my head would be turned to you, but I'd be looking in this direction.
And all your
over
emotions and speech were going right in that direction, but you it was almost like, hey, I'm over here. Like,
yeah.
It was weird, yeah.
But that was because I had gotten so intoxicated, and then I got angry at myself because I had let myself go that far, and I knew the whole entire night was ruined at that point. I had gotten so drunk, especially if we had like a whole night planned. We were going to go out to dinner and then go watch a movie and then maybe do something after that. I had gotten to the point to where I could barely even talk. And
we'd go out to eat and that'd be it.
Yeah.
We couldn't make it anywhere else.
No, and how many times would we go out to eat, and then on the way home I was asleep in the car on the way back to the house?
Sure, tons of times.
Tons of times. And the thing is that I got angry at myself because I had let myself get that far. After I told myself all day long, I'm not going to get intoxicated this early. I'm not going to get intoxicated this early. I'm going to wait. This time, this date night, I'm going to wait to start drinking heavy until like 10 o'clock. I'm going to make sure that we can enjoy our dinner. I'm only going to have a couple beers. And then it's 7 o'clock at night, and I'm already 3 sheets to the wind, seeing double, bumping into the walls, can barely walk.
Or you had decided to walk from wherever we were.
Oh, that used to happen all the time.
Y'all, it's a funny story, not funny, but funny. You half the time would beat me home because you'd know so many people.
I've told them that
have
before.
You? Okay, so like we would leave a restaurant and get in some, let's say we got in some argument in the car on the way home. He'd get out of the car and he'd be like, I'm walking. And I'd be like, okay. Most of the time I probably went straight home. Maybe I stopped at Target or something. I don't know. But I can't tell you how many times he beat me home.
Yeah.
Because he knew so many people, somebody would pull over and be like, "Hey, you need a ride?" It used to make me so mad.
I've told them that on here before.
The purpose of you being punished.
I used to jump out of the car all the time.
Like a moving vehicle.
All the time. And when I say all the time, probably like once a week.
No, it wasn't like that.
It wasn't that much.
No,
okay,
because we weren't alone that much.
Once a month.
I mean,
it was a lot.
No, I don't think it was that bad.
It used to happen all the time, especially when we lived in our old neighborhood.
Well, we were close to town.
And we were like 2 minutes from Target. I mean, we were right down the street from all the stores, and we'd be on the way home or something, or we would be heading into town, and we would get into an argument, and this always happened whenever we were going out, just the two of us, when this kind of stuff would happen. It wasn't when we had the kids with us, but like I said, I'd always get to the point where I would overdrink, and then I would get angry at myself because I let myself get that drunk. We'd get in some
argument,
We'd get in some argument because my attitude got horrible, and then I would just jump out of the vehicle in the middle of the road and start walking down the street. And then she'd pull up and say, "Get back in the car." And I'd tell her, "Just leave. Just go home. I'm gonna make it back home. Just go home."
And I just want to say the only reason I stopped to tell him to get back in the car was because the next day you would have said, "You left me there."
Yeah.
Which is not the case. You got out of the car, but you would have been like, "You just left me there." And I'd have been like, "No."
Well, what always ended up happening was I'd get out of the car, and somebody that I knew would see me walking down the side of the road, and they'd pull over and they'd go, "Hey man, what's going on? You all right?" And I'd say, I just got in a fight with my wife and got out of the car. I'm walking home. They say, "Do you need a ride?" And I'd hop in the car with them. And as she was pulling into the driveway at our house, I'd be getting there, or I was already home. And she'd be like, how in the world did you get here? And I just knew so many people in our because like I've said, we live in a very, very small town, and it was a lot smaller back then as well. Our town has grown a lot lately, but it was a lot smaller back then. And I've been in the restaurant industry my whole entire life, so I know a lot of people around here, and a lot of people worked with me over the years as well. So somebody would always see me and give me a ride back home. But the point is, the whole point to today's video is that I think a lot of times, and I'm not going to say this is for every single person out there, so please don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. I'm just really speaking for myself, and this in my heart, I just think this is what a reason a lot of us get upset, is that we promise ourselves, the person that's suffering with AUD, we tell ourselves every single day, today I'm not going to do this. Today I'm not going to allow myself to get this intoxicated.
Yeah. Today I'm going to control it.
I'm going to control it today. We promise ourselves the night before, especially when we know we have something going on the next day. You know, I can think back to so many times we had like a wedding to go to, or some party, a birthday party, or some school event or something like that, and I would tell myself, I'm not going to start drinking early tomorrow. I'm going to refrain. I'm going to wait until after this event, or I'm going to have like a drink or two right before the event just to get a little bit loose before I go. But that's it. And every time that we had something to do, I would always start drinking early. And before you know it, I was blackout drunk, and the whole entire night was ruined. And I got angry at myself because I was chasing that dragon, trying to stay at that sweet spot, and I just could never hang out there. I never could stay like this. This was me all the time. It was just doing this, you know. I was up or I was down. I was up and I was down. I never could just ride that wave. And a lot of people that don't have AUD don't deal with alcoholism. You know, people that don't have a problem with alcohol, you know, they can have 1 or 2 drinks, 3 drinks, get to that sweet spot, and they're done. Or they'll hang out for an hour and then maybe have another drink later on. But they kind of, you know, normal people can just hang out in that space, and it's not a big deal for them. But for people like me, you know, I just can't do that. I always have to take things to the next level. I just don't know how to just hang out in that nice little area. I've never known how to do it. Maybe when I was younger I could do it. But once my alcoholism got out of control, I couldn't. And I was speaking about this the other day, you know, like when I would go for like holidays and stuff like that, either like Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Oh yeah,
stuff like that.
You'd miss.
Oh, I mean,
you missed presents one year for Christmas.
I told them about that.
You laid over there and slept on a couch.
I told them about
else
that.
Was doing stuff.
The last Christmas that we had before I ended up in the hospital and had to stop drinking.
Yeah, you slept through.
We went to my parents' house for Christmas. I had started drinking. I used to wake up in the morning Christmas Eve, and I would start drinking Christmas Eve morning as my kids were opening up their presents. I was sitting there.
That's Christmas Day morning.
Christmas Day. I'm sorry. Christmas Day
Eve,
morning.
you always had to work.
I had to work Christmas Eve, but Christmas Day, that morning, I would have a coffee cup with a mixed drink in it, pretending I was drinking coffee. And I would start drinking. I mean, it would be 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd already started drinking. And then, you know, like I said, that last Christmas that we went to my parents' house right before I had to stop, I started drinking early that morning. We went to my parents' house, I think at like 3 o'clock Christmas Day or something like that. It was early. And when we first got over there, they said, let's go ahead and sit down and open presents. And I'll bet you, I've never asked, and please don't answer this because I don't even want to know, but I probably would imagine they probably opened up the presents early that day because I showed up over there so intoxicated. They probably knew that if we don't open them now, that he's not going to make it. And guess what? We sat down in my parents' living room at like 3:30 in the afternoon to start opening presents, and I woke up, it was like 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. I had passed out as soon as we sat down to open up presents, and didn't wake up until it was dark, and had to open up my presents on my own, because I used to do that all the time, and I was furious with myself for allowing myself to do that day. Another one of those instances where I was angry, but I was angry at myself, you know. And the thing is like I said, the reason I'm talking about this today is that I think a lot of the times, you know, our loved ones that are dealing with this disease, you know, they get angry, but I think it's more or less they're angry at themselves They're angry that they took it too far. They're angry that they just can't go and enjoy a family event without being intoxicated. And they're angry at themselves. So I was angry at myself all the time because alcohol had such a grip on me and I just couldn't get out of the grasp of it. And I didn't know how to do it. And, I just wanted to have nice nights or nice events where I wasn't blackout drunk. And I could never control my consumption. Like I said, I told myself every single day, I'm not going to do this today. And then, by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was already passed out because I did it again. And I would get angry at myself because I had absolutely no control. Once again, chasing that dragon like we do. Because, we want to stay at that sweet spot, but us as alcoholics, if 5 feels great, well, 100's going to feel even better. I mean, that's the truth. And especially when you're drinking hard liquor like that, and, if you were anything like me, I never ate food. My stomach was always empty. And when you're drinking straight liquor on an empty stomach like that, it doesn't take much. Even if your tolerance is high, it doesn't take very long for you to get to that sweet spot. And, I would chug liquor.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. This cup right here, one of these tumblers right here, I'm not joking when I say that I would fill this cup.
Well, you do ice.
Well, I would put ice in there, but it would be filled up to here with liquor.
And a splash of Sprite.
And a splash of Sprite or a splash of cranberry juice or orange juice or something. It was all liquor. Anytime that somebody saw me mix a drink, and I often would try to do it away from people because I didn't want people to see how much I really was actually drinking. But if anybody watched me do it, they would stand there with their mouth hanging open going, are you serious right now? Are you really going to drink that much? And I'd be like, this is just a snackatizer right here, which is why I used to call them. All my drinks were snackatizers, and that was just what my name was for my liquor drinks. But, once again, I always took it too far, and I was always angry at myself, and I would take it out on others because I had no self-control. And still to this day, I have absolutely no self-control. If I have one drink, it's all over. And I'll ruin everything that I've worked on over the past couple years if I was to have one drink. So, once again, if you have a loved one that's suffering from this and they're getting angry all the time, don't blame yourself. It is not your fault. I think a majority of the time we get angry at ourselves, and it might not just be that, that they got too intoxicated. They might just be angry at themselves because they can't stop. But there is a lot of self-reflection when we're drinkers and when we're in, we're deep in our addiction. And we want to change, but we just don't know how. And, we try to do it on our own because we keep telling ourselves, I can do this on my own. Because we want to be able to fix it on our own. And then we'll try to do it, and then we fail. And a lot of the times, we don't tell anybody. Like, I wouldn't tell my wife, I'm not going to drink tomorrow. I would tell myself, I'm not going to say anything because if it doesn't work out, then she's not going to be able to hold my feet to the fire. I would try to do it, and then I would, by that afternoon, I was already drunk. I couldn't even make it through a whole day without drinking. But there were times that I would tell her, I'm not going to drink today.
Oh, yeah.
And then she'd come home. I would promise her, I'm not going to drink tomorrow. Today's the last day. I got to finish the rest of this bottle tonight, and that's it. I'm not going to drink any more. And then the next day, she would send me a text message. Today you're not going to drink, right? And I'd say, yep, not drinking today. And I had all intentions of not drinking.
Yeah, I think it came from a good place.
It did come from a good place because I really did truly mean that I wanted to stop. But, 8 o'clock came around and I'd start itching. 9 o'clock came around, I'd really start itching. 10, 11 o'clock, before you know it, it was like muscle memory. I was in my car.
Oh, we're talking about in the morning?
Yeah, I was in my car. Already had gone to the liquor store and I got back home and it was like I didn't even remember even doing it.
And then I'd text him and he'd be like, no, I'm doing good today.
Yeah. And then she'd come home and find me and I'd be like passed out in the bed with a liquor bottle sitting right there and my liquor drink sitting right there beside the bed too. Cold busted. And then I'd wake up and I already knew. And then she wouldn't speak to me because I had said I wasn't going to drink again. And then
we're back.
And we're right back at square one all over again because I couldn't stop chasing that dragon. But anyway, guys, that's it for today. I just wanted to talk about that and just let, any of you guys know that have a loved one that's dealing with this, that it's not your fault if they're angry. I think the majority of the time we're angry at ourselves. But anyway, like I said, that's all I want to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. And until tomorrow, guys, I will see y'all then. Y'all have a great rest of your Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, guys. See y'all tomorrow. Love y'all so much. Bye-bye.